Notice how it talks about, okay, the landlord says your rent is due, that you may have to litigate, you're going to get kicked out, that you don't have any cash, you don't have any style, you don't have any girl to make you smile, no special person in your life to make you smile. Just don't worry, be happy. That don't worry that it'll all pass away. In fact, one of the lines we talked about this, it's going to be, it only lasts a little while and go right on past. Is that how we should approach the pursuit of happiness? Is okay, everything else is just temporary, but we just have to get through this moment and we'll be okay. Don't worry about anything else. Don't worry. Be happy. Is that how we should approach life? Should we approach it as Bobby McFerrin's song says, don't worry, be happy? And you heard that so many times in that song. It was really popular as 30 plus years ago, and it was really irritating then. But it was very, very popular back when MTV played videos. Well, is that how we should approach our pursuit of happiness? Don't worry. Put a smile on your, that's what it says, smile and don't worry. That's how we should approach to find happiness, to pursue happiness. We simply ignore what circumstances may be. And this is part, again, going back to the C.S. Lewis article, 795. He makes this comment about the pursuit of happiness, the laws of nature with eternal sanctions, laws of nations which will be sanctified. It says that men in the pursuit of happiness have a right to do whatever they have a right to do. That's tautology, that's a loop. Because you have the right to pursue happiness, you have the right to do whatever it takes to pursue happiness. Therefore, you have the right to do whatever it takes to make you happy because you have the right to pursue happiness. That's a tautological loop. It means everything's circular reasoning. Not a good reasoning. Says the Declaration is primarily a denial of the political principles that long governed Europe. The challenge flung down to the Austrian and Russian empires, to England before the Reform Bills, to Bourbon France. It demands that whatever means of pursuing happiness are lawful for any should be lawful for all. That man, not men of some particular caste, class, status, or religion, should be free to use them. And that's part of it. Why he looks at the idea that what writers of the Declaration of Independence, in particular Jefferson, talk about all men are created equal. That there is no caste, no class system. That because one group enjoys a certain benefit doesn't mean that other groups cannot have that benefit. They should have access to it too. They all are given the right to pursue happiness. So maybe we can look at it in meaning it that way. But he goes on page 796, says the question as to what means are lawful. What methods of pursuing happiness are either morally permissible by the law of nature or should be declared legally permissible by the legislature of a particular nation remains exactly where it did. What does it mean to be lawful? If we said by all lawful means, he said, well, what really is lawful? What is legal? And says that's where he disagrees with the Clare's maxim. I don't think it's obvious that people have the unlimited right to happiness which he suggests. Because I don't agree. People should have an unlimited access to happiness. And he goes on and says, well, what she's talking about when she says happiness means simply and solely sexual happiness. Part because women like Clare never use the word happiness in any other sense. That's his point. But also because I never heard Clare talk about the right to any other kind. She was rather leftist in her politics. Rabid teetotaler. I never heard her use an alcoholic because he was happy when he was drunk. Says that many of her friends, female friends, their own happiness would be perceptibly increased by boxing her ears. I very much doubt this would have brought her theory of a right to happiness into play. That, okay, if somebody got a chance to box her in the ears, strike her because they'll make them happy, well, that's not what she's talking about. He says, okay, what does she really mean by this right to pursue happiness, right to be happy, right to happiness? Says that the whole Western world seems to me to have been doing for the last 40-odd years what she talks about. When I was a youngster, all the progressive people were saying, why all this prudery? Let us treat sex just as we treat all our other impulses. I was simple-minded enough to believe they meant what they said. I've since discovered that they meant exactly the opposite. They meant that sex was to be treated as no other impulse in our nature has ever been treated by civilized people. All the others we meant have to be bridled. Absolute obedience to your instinct for self-preservation is what we call cowardice. To your acquisition impulse, it's avarice. Even sleep must be resisted if you're a century. But every unkindness and breach of faith seems to be condoned, provided the object aimed at is 4 bare legs and a bed. That's his commentary, okay? It's like having a morality in which stealing fruit is considered wrong unless you steal nectarines. So now he's taking the pursuit of happiness and the right to happiness to a moral sense, and in particular to relationships. Because his example is Mr. A leaves Mrs. A, Mrs. B leaves Mr. B, and Mr. A and Mrs. B get together. He says this right of hand, he doesn't agree with that. He goes on, says if you protest against this view, you're usually met with chatter about the legitimacy and beauty and sanctity of sex and accused of harboring some Puritan prejudice. If I object to boys who steal my nectarines, must I be supposed to disapprove of nectarines in general, or even of boys in general? It might, be stealing that I disapproved of. And that becomes his point. The real situation is skillfully concealed by saying that the question of Mr. A's right to desert his wife is one of sexual morality. Robbing an orchard is not an offense against some special morality called fruit morality. It's an offense against honesty. Mr. A's actions is an offense against good faith, to solemn promises, against gratitude toward one to whom he was deeply indebted, and against common humanity. Now that raises some interesting points, because he's saying, okay, Mr. A deserting his wife, and he used the expression later to seduce his neighbor's wife. He goes, well, that makes him happy. That's his right. So he should have the right to do that. And Lewis says, no, not when it goes against these aspects. It says the sexual motive is taken to condone all sorts of behavior, which if it had any other end in view would be condemned as merciless, treacherous, and unjust. So it's part of the nature of a strong erotic passion is distinct from a transient fit of appetite that makes more towering promises than any other emotion. It says to be in love involves the almost irresistible conviction that one will go on being in love until one dies. And that possession of the beloved will confer not merely frequent ecstasies, but settled, fruitful, deep-rooted, lifelong happiness. Hence, all seems to be at stake. If we miss this chance, we shall have lived in vain. At the very thought of such a doom, we sink into fathomless depths of self-pity. The idea about all that we do. If love calls for us, then we should do it. Because everything is at stake. It says these promises, though, are often found to be untrue. It says we discount the world without end pretensions of our friends and more easily enough. We know that such things sometimes last, sometimes don't. When they do last, this is not because they promised at the outset to do so. When two people achieve lasting happiness, this is not solely because they are great lovers, but because they are also, because I must put it crudely, good people. Controlled, loyal, fair-minded, mutually adaptable people. He's now looking at the idea about the right to happiness, and he looks specifically at relationships. That as we look at relationships, this is what we are paying attention to. It says if we establish a right to, he calls it sexual happiness, which supersedes all the ordinary rules of behavior, we do so not because of what our passion shows itself to be in experience, but because of what it professes to be while we are in the grip of it. Hence, while the bad behavior is real and works miseries and degradations, the happiness which was the object of the behavior turns out again and again to be illusory. Everyone, except Mr. A and Mrs. B, knows that Mr. A in a year or so may have the same reason for deserting his new wife as for deserting his old. He will feel again that all is at stake. He will see himself again as the great lover, and his pity for himself will exclude all pity for the woman. So, how many of you have a cell phone? How long have you had your cell phone? 4 years? 5 years? 6 years? Anybody have their cell phone for 3 years? Same phone. 2 years. Got a few hands for 2 years. What's going to happen soon then, Lauren? You're going to get a new phone. Why? What's wrong with this one? Does it make you happy? Uh-huh. So why are you getting a new phone? Because it's new. Can it do things that this other one can't? Maybe. And you want to do those things? There you go, folks. We do that frequently. Right? New and improved is always put out on things, right? Even on detergent. New and improved. Really? How new and improved can any detergent be? All detergents work the same basic way, right? You all know that? Where are my chemists? Do we have chemistry people in here? You know, they go in, they mix with the carbon chains, and they pull the carbon chains away from the other chains, so that's why they get washed down the sink or down the drain or wherever. Okay? That's how it works. It's like getting, you know, your shampoos, you get all those new and improved ones. Every shampoo works the same way. Some are simply a little harsher about how much they take away, which is why you then have to buy conditioner. So you can put the oil back in. Because that's what happens. Shampoo goes in and mixes with the oil in your hair, which is a carbon base, takes that and washes it out, which leaves your hair dry. So then you take conditioner, which is simply an oil product, and you put that back in your hair. You all know that, right? Yeah, that's what shampoos and detergents, soap, all soaps are basically the same. They put some fragrances in it, they put some colors in it, they do some different things with them, that's about it. They all work on the same principle. Talk to any chemistry professors, they'll tell you, here's what soap is. They all work the same way. Some are a little gentler because they don't take away all the carbon, they won't react with all the carbon, so it's a gentler aspect to it. Well, he's raising the point that, okay, what happens? You see something new and improved and you want it. So you have the right to do away with what you currently have, put that old phone away, and go get you a new one, right? You can even buy a plan now and do that. Every time they come out with a new model, you just go get it. They let you do that. You just keep paying the same amount every month, right? So that you never have to worry about an update. You're entitled to an update. Anytime a new one comes out, you can go get it. But you're going to keep paying for it, right? I do have a fairly new phone I got during the summer. It replaced the phone I had for like 3 years, which replaced the phone I had for like 6 years, or 5 years, I think. I don't change phones all that often, but I changed to this one because I was trying to change my plan. You need to get it cut down. I said, well, you can also get a free phone. Okay, I got it free. I didn't pay anything for it, but okay, got the free phone. And I had a Windows phone, and I really wasn't that satisfied with Windows phone. Trying to do things with it just didn't quite work all that well. And it's like, okay, I really didn't like it, so I shifted to an Android phone, which seems to be a little bit better. But okay, I don't do all that much with the phones anyway. I make some calls and now send more messages, because I now have unlimited text messaging. I still don't exceed what I had done previously, but they taught me an unlimited text messaging. Doesn't necessarily make me any happier at that, but hey, I got it. When we are looking at, though, getting the new phone, Lauren, hopefully you'll like your new phone. It'll make you happy for 2 years, and then after that you get to upgrade to a new one, right? Sure. It's like getting your iPad. How many of you bought an iPad when it was just the iPad? Anybody get one of those? Now, of course, it went to iPad 2. Then it was iPad 3. And then they had one that they called the 4th generation, which I'm not sure how different that is. Now it's iPad Air, and now you have iPad Air 2, and now you have iPad Pro. Right? Because you got to get something new. Have to get something new. And we do. It's like, you know, currently, I'm not sure if any of you hear these all that often, more and more of the car leasing firms are having least on radio commercials. Getting your, and I love this way it's done. Wouldn't you like to get your wife a new car for Christmas? That was the ad I heard this morning. Wouldn't you like to get your wife a new car for Christmas? Imagine how happy she'll be. This was part of the commercial. How happy she'll be to walk out and see that bow on that new car. Well, it's easy to do at one of these leasing places. Because hey, end of year model, get them cheaper. Because they're getting those new models in end of year. They want to clear out their inventory so they're not liable for taxes. Deep discounts are now, and when you do the leasing, you can get the savings on the payment 30, 40, even 50% cheaper than a payment. And then the selling point, and when the lease is up, you can return the car for a new without any obligations. Okay, that'll make you happy getting a new car every year or 2 years, whatever it is your lease is going to be. Oh, you can have a new car, and that'll make you happy, or make your wife happy. I thought that was interesting, but don't you want to get your wife a new car? Lewis brings up the point that, is this really how we want to approach the right to happiness? What if there is, as he says here, that Mr. A can, in a year or so, may have the same reason for deserting his new wife as for deserting his old. He will again is at stake. And Lewis says, well, wait a minute, we need to reconsider this. And he goes, there are 2 points to consider. 2 points why the right to happiness is not something you are guaranteed. His first point, and he's primarily looking at that moral aspect, as he calls it, sexual happiness. A society in which conjugal infidelity is tolerated must always be, in the long run, a society adverse to women. A society in which conjugal infidelity is tolerated will be a society adverse to women. Now, question is raised, do we tolerate conjugal infidelity in our society? Well, again, watch television programs, watch movies, watch commercials. Right? We create different aspects there for you to consider. And he says this is adverse to women if we have this kind of society. He says women, whatever a female songs and satires may say to the contrary, are more naturally monogamous than men. He says it's a biological necessity. Now, I'm not sure how we're going to look at that, but it says where promiscuity prevails, they will therefore always be more often the victims than the culprits. We talk frequently about double standard, right? And how that comes into play regarding sexual infidelity or conjugal infidelity. I was talking with my British Lit group. We were talking about Henry VIII and how in his second marriage, one to Anne Boleyn, she was, after 18 months of marriage, she was put on trial and found guilty of adultery. At least 5 men of the court testified they'd had relationships with her. So she was found guilty of adultery because it was against the law, and she was beheaded. Here's the situation. Anne Boleyn married Henry VIII when she was already pregnant with his child, after he had to get his marriage to Catherine of Aragon dissolved, which caused him to have to split the Church of England from the Catholic Church because the Pope would not give an annulment. So Henry simply separated the Church of England from the Catholic Church, and then said that he, as king, is head of the church, and so he issued his own annulment. Dissolved marriage to Catherine, which allowed him to marry Anne Boleyn. Henry was not tried for adultery when he had his relationship with Anne Boleyn, he was already married. She was not. But he had a relationship with her, but he was never put on trial for adultery. Well, why not?
And she was a non-mistress of his, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it wasn't forgotten. Sir Thomas Wyatt, in fact, wrote a poem in which was an allusion to Anne Boleyn. Everybody agrees, saying that he had once chased after this hind, this deer, but she's now wearing a collar and saying that you cannot touch me because I belong to Caesar. Well, that was before the marriage to Catherine of Aragon and Henry VIII was dissolved. Well, why wasn't Henry, who clearly was committing adultery, right, which was against the law at the time, why was Henry not put on trial and found guilty? That was Henry. He was king. And he was married.
He was born.
Right? You know, it used to be that in the past, guys could brag about their conquest, and women were, branded with a scarlet A, right? Use reference to Hall. Yeah, it becomes an issue there. It says that women are more often the victims. It says domestic happiness is more necessary to them, meaning to women, than to us. Amen. The quality by which they most easily hold a man, their beauty, decreases every year after they have come to maturity. It says women don't really care two pence about our looks by which we hold women. Maybe some do not. But, think about that, right? We have, in our society, the term has come along over the last several years, it's called the trophy wife. Everybody familiar with that concept of the trophy wife, where a man who's reached a certain level of success in life gets rid of the old wife and gets a new one? To show that, hey, look what I've achieved, because he gets a younger, lovely woman. Trophy wife. So, well, he says, here's one of the issues. If we allow such things to take place, this pursuit of happiness, this right to happiness, and especially, he says, in matters of sexuality, he says, well, it's going to create a society averse to women. Now, I know not everybody necessarily always feels that way, but I want you to consider, I showed you one video, but it was just very simple. I want you to consider videos that you see when you get a chance to actually see a video. Consider how many of them present for us women in sexually provocative ways. Is it just a minority of videos that do that? It doesn't seem to be. I can't quite figure out, going through the videos showing us, like, okay, and why is the woman dancing around in a bathing suit and high heels? Because I'm sure that's what you all do, ladies. You wear your bathing suit and you wear high heels when you go to the pool, right? Right? This way around, surely, they break out those, 3 or 4 inch heels, or whatever they are, and off you go, right, to the pool. Why? It says that the ruthless war of promiscuity, women are then at a double disadvantage. They play for higher stakes and are also more likely to lose. Because I have no sympathy for moralists who frown the increasing cruelty in female provocativeness. These signs of desperate competition fill me with pity, he says. And he says his second point, though the right to happiness is chiefly aimed for the sexual impulse, it seems to me impossible to say fatal principle. Once allowed to have their seat lives, we thus advance toward a state of society in which not only each man, but every impulse in each man claims carte blanche. And then through our technological skill may help us survive a little longer, our civilization will have died at heart. And will not even, dare not even add a portion, be swept away. It says that it will not only be in this matter, but in all matters. That every impulse will be given carte blanche. The right to do whatever you want means, carte blanche means, the white letter, the blank check, basically. But you'll have the right to do whatever you want in every impulse once we go from this stage to the next. That the right to happiness is going to extend in all areas. The right to be happy by, as I said, going to the shopping mall and taking an object. Have you seen some of these people? Some of those videos of what took place on Black Friday? As people actually fought over items? Because, hey, this person wants it, needs it, has to get it, and they'll do whatever it takes to get it, even if it means knocking somebody down. Have you seen the story about, many people do shopping online and items are put on their front porch, right? Have you seen the stories, news stories are coming along about this one? About people coming up and taking the packages off of the front porches? They go around the neighborhood when they follow the FedEx or the UPS truck, and then they park and wait when the UPS truck or the FedEx truck is stopped and go put packages out. And as soon as it goes off, they go up there and take the items off the porches. There was a story on one of the news channels. Packages taken. They had surveillance cameras, so they saw the person who did it. It was their Christmas cards. The package contained the family Christmas cards with their family photos. They found them a few blocks away because whoever took it actually opened it up, let's see what was in there, and just dumped them. Because what are you going to do with somebody's family's photo, Christmas cards? So some person a few blocks away found it and brought it back to them. So they actually got those packages. People go, they'll follow a FedEx truck or a UPS truck, whatever they're doing, follow them. When they see the package put on, they wait for a little bit, see if anybody's there. If not, they go take the package, off they go. Well, what if that makes that person happy? They didn't have to shop. They didn't have to spend money. They could just go and take what they want. Well, should we allow that? Well, some people feel they're entitled in that way. And that's the point that Lewis begins to make. If we allow such behavior as saying they have a right to happiness in this way, well, where do we see it ending? Does it, as he says, have a limit or not? He doesn't. We're going to see the limits, as he puts it. Says it's impossible that the matter should stay there. So sooner or later, it will seep through our whole lives. And he says that's going to be destructive to civilization. What do we have to have in a world, then, to allow happiness, but not cause any action, any impulse to be allowed? Just because Miss Grover says it makes her happy to be able to lean over and slap Lauren in the back of the head, and they derive great enjoyment of that, I don't think Lauren would. Right? No. Okay. Again, that's a point that he also makes. He talked about him in that way. That's not what we do. We say, no, that's assault. You can't do that. There's a lawfulness there that has been violated. The legality is you cannot assault somebody. But it makes her happy. Some of you may have younger siblings. You may have enjoyed it when you were the older sibling, you had the younger sibling, and you were able to pick on the younger sibling. It made you happy. Maybe you were the younger sibling, though, and the older sibling picked on you. Were you happy when that took place? Were you the younger one? It didn't make you happy, but your older brother or sister enjoyed it, right? Yeah. Did they have the right to do that? They were just pursuing that. They had the right to happiness, right? Well, we raised that point earlier. Well, what happens when one person's right to happiness interferes with the other person's right to happiness? Where do we draw the line? How do we do that? One of the points that's made in this article in regard to Mr. A and Mrs. A and Mr. B and Mrs. B. This part that I didn't read to you says, this is at the beginning, that Mr. A and Mrs. B were not happy with their spouses. Mrs. B had adored her husband, but then he got smashed up in the war. Thought he had lost his royalty. It was known that he had lost his job. Life with him was no longer what Mrs. B had bargained for. So does she have the right to find happiness someplace else? In the life that she was supposedly pursuing, was that life now denied her? Did she have the right to find happiness someplace else? Likewise, poor Mrs. A. She had lost her looks and all of her liveliness. This might be true to some said that she consumed herself by bearing his children, nursing through the long illness that overshadowed her earlier married life. But she's no longer looking, no longer acting the way she used to. Does he have the right, did Mr. A have the right then to find happiness someplace else? Well, maximum is yes, you have the right to happiness. Says he told us so himself. He says, he was the sort of man who he was not the sort of man nonchalantly throw a wife away like a peel of an orange. Her suicide was a terrible shock to him. We all knew this, for he told us so himself. But what could I do, he said. A man has a right to happiness. I had to take my one chance when it came. Really? Do we? And Mrs. B married Mr. B and adored him, he said at first. But then things happened to him. Hurt in the war. He lost his job. Life as they had planned did not turn out the way it was supposed to. Did she not have the right to try to find happiness someplace else, away from this marriage? Same thing with Mr. A. Did he not have the right to pursue happiness, to find it away from Mrs. A when she's no longer the woman he first married? As he said, a man has a right to happiness, to take the one chance when it comes along. Well, do we really? It's an issue that comes up. Because how does it address the issue of our perfect society? In a perfect society is where all people are supposed to be happy. Think about Omelas. In that story, all the people are happy. They're enjoying that spring-like day. They're celebrating. They're having the contests, the races, etc. But some people are still leaving. It all comes down to that one child, that one room, shut away for the good of all. Where do we draw the line about our right to happiness? Is it pushing through the crowd, knocking other people over, and grabbing that one toy that you know that your child or your niece, nephew, whoever it is, really wants, or that you want? You get it, so you have it, and you're going to be happy? Or is it getting that new car every couple of years? Or the new phone? Or new clothes? And you'll be happy for a while with those, right? Oh, have to have that. The little children, if I don't get that, I'm going to. Come on, you fill in the blank. If I don't get that, I'm going to die. Really? It's that important to you? You probably have said that at least once in your life, right? I have to have that or I'll just die. Really? Your happiness depends on getting this item? Do we have that chance? Do we get to take it whenever we have that chance in? The issue comes up that Lewis looks at and says, no. Because there are two consequences of this. Two aspects that we need to consider. That any society that allows that to take place in one area, it will eventually extend to all areas. The limit just won't stop. And he says, and especially in regard to sexual pursuit of happiness, women are adversely affected. I don't know when it's on. It may have already been on, but there were commercials for the Victoria's Secrets show, right? Anybody see any of those commercials? You get to see the Victoria Angels walking up and down the runway, I guess, right? I don't know. I don't watch it. Right? And of course, those programs and all those commercials were clearly meant for you ladies, right? Because that, you're going to be the one wearing the lingerie. So clearly they're meant for you, to try to sell you on it, right? Yeah. It's like the Sports Illustrated issue that comes out in February. The swimsuit issue. I always thought that was interesting. It comes out in February, but the swimsuit issue, of course, that's clearly marketed, because it has so much sports in it when that issue comes out. Not quite, right? A society that allows certain, as he calls it, conjugal infidelity, will be adverse to women. What expectations do we put on people, in this case especially women, to fulfill the happiness of others? And how women are supposed to act, dress, etc. look. For what purpose? Make themselves feel good? Yeah, maybe. But also quite often why? And what kind of society are we looking at? How is this going to be a perfect world? And how will happiness will be something then that we are guaranteed to consider?